what's the best situation in college football? Or which team, campus, school, all that is best positioned to succeed in the future, right? I obviously thought it was Georgia. And I sat down to think about this. I sat down to do a little bit of research before I got on here to talk to you guys. And then I kind of just thought to myself, I don't have to think about this. This is an easy answer. It is Georgia. Who is best suited to win moving forward? I think it's obviously the Georgia Bulldogs. And look, does Nick Saban retiring help me feel better about that statement? Yes, it definitely does. And I feel like all I did all day was with the TV on. It was all about Bill Belichick and Nick Saban on the television today. Any channel you flipped on between ESPN, Fox Sports, all of them, right? That's what the conversation was about. And so the conversation was obviously about a lot of different head coaches in college football that might be the next head coach at Alabama. And it got me thinking about these situations. It got me thinking about Dan Lanning's situation at Oregon. It got me thinking about Steve Sarkisian's situation at Texas, about Kirby Smart's situation at Georgia. And those are three names that people threw out there, obviously, as replacements for Nick Saban at Alabama. They would be fools to leave their situations. But Georgia has it the best, and that's what I think. And I'll break some of it down for you. Ryan Curley from Dawg Post talking about different power positions in college football, which teams are best suited to win moving forward. Because as I've said 1,000 times, it's going to be harder, and coaching is going to be harder, and that's why coaching is going to be even more important for this conversation, right? Dan Lanning obviously decided he's staying at Oregon. I think that's the right move. It's one of the better situations. I just think jobs, right? That's a better way to put it. I keep saying situation is in the best power. Which jobs are the best is another way to put this. All right, and I think Oregon's one of the best. You've got all that money. You got the Nike pipeline. You've had success. Oregon has made national championships. Oregon has pushed for playoff contention. And I think Oregon will be a perennial playoff contender now moving forward with the 12 teams. I think Oregon very well could win the Big Ten. In fact, I think they will win the Big Ten this coming year. So if you're Dan, why would you leave that? Why would you leave that? To be Nick Saban's replacement in Alabama, to feel that pressure, to possibly get canned in a couple of years? No, you could build something in Oregon and stay there for a while or forever. And it was the same thing with Steve Sarkisian when I was thinking about why would he leave Texas? He just got it rolling. He just beat Alabama. He just got to the college football playoff, right? He's starting to get Texas over that hump again. You've got all that money over there in Austin, and you've got all that talent in Texas and recruiting, and you're going to have people from all over want to go play for the Texas Longhorns. Why would Steve Sarkisian leave? And so the other one that I was really thinking about, and obviously there's no serious thought about Kirby leaving Georgia, right? That's one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in the last 24 hours was that Kirby would go and be the Alabama head coach. Obviously, I didn't see it by anyone serious, but just the sentiment among people. This is the best situation. This is the best marriage. I don't think there's a better fit in sports when we talk about a coach and its team/program. And that's Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs. I think you want to rank the relationships, that's probably number one. And what Georgia's been doing, I don't think it's going to stop. I do think it's going to be harder. Obviously, you got to go to places like Ole Miss and Bama and Texas this year, and it's going to be a tough schedule, but look, man, Georgia's a heavy favorite to win this coming year, to win the national championship in 2024 for a reason. There's a reason why they're going to be ranked number one heading into the season. There's a reason why the media and the coaches rank Georgia in the top 3 or 4 in that end-of-season poll over teams like Alabama and Florida State and Texas, right? Because everyone knows what Georgia is right now, and it's a juggernaut led by Kirby Smart. And you look at the rosters next year, you look at everything we know about all these teams right now, moving forward, it feels like Georgia is in the best position to win, even though the SEC will be hard, right? Obviously, you think like a Colorado or a Oklahoma State or a Utah, whoever out there in the Big 12 or a Florida State or a Clemson in the ACC, they could get an auto bid with a much easier slate ahead of them, right? Because they can get through their 12-game schedule and a conference championship easier than you can in the SEC or the Big Ten. I'm not going to sit here. Look, obviously I filter a little bit here, but I'm not going to filter the truth. It's easier in those conferences. So those auto bids don't mean as much to me. Tell me if I'm saying anything that's unfair. Despite that, Georgia's been doing it anyway. Obviously, didn't have to play an Alabama or a Texas or an LSU in the regular season the last couple of years. You had to in 2020. That was one of Georgia's 4 losses in these 4 seasons. And that's my other point here. I don't think people realize that we're in the 2020s now, right? This is a new decade, and obviously moving into 23, it's going to be a new era of college football. And that era, definitely, part of the transition will be Nick Saban leaving. Because, yes, the last 17 years of Alabama, obviously a little bit of the NFL in between that and LSU. This is a guy that dominated college football. He's dominated for my entire life. That I can remember, my entire college football memory has Nick Saban at the top. The first national championship I can remember watching was the one where Alabama beat Texas, his first ring in Alabama. That's the first national championship that I can remember watching. I don't really remember the ones before that. I kind of, but I remember sitting down and watching that with my father. It's all changing, right? Is Kirby the new king of college football? I mean, go look at everyone's rankings right now. Who are the best coaches in college football now that Nick Saban is not around? It's Kirby Smart. Who's got the most talented roster? Probably Georgia, right? Or it's definitely a top 3 most talented roster if it's not number 1. Who's got a great recruiting pipeline? Who's pulling in number 1 classes? Who's dipping into the transfer portal? In addition to that, in addition to the number 1 class this year, they go out and get an established SEC running back in Trevor Etienne. They go out and get an established SEC receiver in London Humphreys. You got to get weapons, you get playmakers, you get guys that are going to help the program. Georgia's doing everything at a high level. Today, I got to meet a former NFL player. I won't name names or anything like that. And we talked about the attention to detail for the team. He used to play for the Patriots. That's all I'll say. He's not a really famous guy or anything. But I got to meet him, talk to him today, and I was like, what was different when you went from the Patriots to the Cardinals and the Raiders, right? He played for a few different teams. What was the difference? And he said it was the attention to detail. It was the preparation. He was talking about how in practice, for example, at one of the organizations, they would mess something up in practice. They would just move on to the next play. In New England, it was, no, we're going to do this over and over and over again until we get this right. And that sentiment, that attention to detail, those preparation practices, they're practiced in Athens. I tell you that. I guarantee that Kirby Smart, if it's not written down somewhere, has a detailed schedule of what his day is. Probably down to the minute in some cases. Because I tell you what, he's not going far over the 20-minute mark in these press conferences. In the Monday press conferences, they're supposed to last about 20 minutes, right? I've never seen it last more than 21 minutes. That's just how it is. He moves on to the next thing. It's the attention to detail, and it's planning, preparing, and doing more. I say that. You can say, well, they probably do that at Texas. They probably do that at Alabama. Well, they have done that at Alabama. They probably do this there and there. Probably does get done at a lot of spots. I don't know if it gets done to the level that a New England Patriots did, that an Alabama did. Want to know why? Because you win, and you win, and you win, and you win, and you see it over and over again, and that's what we're seeing at Georgia. 50 wins in 4 years, 4 losses. 29 games in a row during that, 2 in a row. It's not letting up. They just broke their own record that they set last year. I mean, this thing's not letting up. And now that Nick Saban is not in town, it is the best situation. It is the best situation. They've got the recruiting pipeline. They've got the coaching. They've got the talent. They've got the funds, right? Georgia's got it all. It doesn't have everything as good as all the other places. They probably don't have as much money as Texas. Might not have as much money as Oregon when you think about Nike funding them. But they got Kirby Smart. And I really do think that is what sets them over the top. Because guess what? Nick Saban is what set Alabama over the top this entire time. Alabama was not... Obviously, Alabama has a great history. And it has a lot of rings. And has some rings without Saban. But wasn't always peaches and cream throughout history, and obviously I wasn't there for it, but I know what happened. The 90s weren't pretty. The 2000s weren't as pretty, right? Nick Saban came in and changed things again and changed things to the way things could be at Alabama. He showed what could happen at LSU, and then he did it at Alabama for a long period of time, and it was the same thing with Kirby Smart. You just had to get the right guy in there. What could happen? What can happen is you win a lot of games and you win a lot of trophies. All right, what has happened in Georgia's 8 years under Kirby? 2 Orange Bowl trophies, a Rose Bowl trophy, 2 national championship trophies, 2 SEC championship trophies, a Sugar Bowl trophy, like a Liberty Bowl or something like that. All sorts of wins, all sorts of player awards, a Heisman finalist, a Buckus, multiple, right? Bedard Award winners, all that. Do I have to say anything else? Links are down below for the newsletter. Thank you for signing up ahead of time.